Welcome to We Learn Network. This is session 6, part 1, data storage management. On the device and the subsystem in the storage network is the topic of the session. In this session, we will cover the topics about the disk drives, major part of a disk drive, disk platters, read-write channel, buffer memory, disk controller, disk partitions, logical block addressing, geometry of disk drive and zone bit recording, tape drives, and a look at tape media. Now, as in this session we are discussing about the main topic is the storage network. That is as you know, the fundamental concept of storage networking is we studied in the last session. So this we will discuss about the storage device and the subsystem which play a major role in the data storage and management. दैट्स हम डाटा स्टोरेज कर रहे हैं आपके सिस्टम को आप जो यूज़ करते हैं वाइडली मेन पर्पस होता है आप ह्यूज अमाउंट ऑफ डाटा उसमें स्टोर कर सकें एंड दे कैन ऑपरेट इन द माइक्रोस्कोपिक realm and the combining advanced magnetic physics and chemistry and electronics. But now we are starting here with the topic of the disk drive. Let's several type of storage devices you used. Obviously what kind we had used like CD, USB, hard disk, and the many you know very well that you already used. But now the several type of storage devices are used in the storage networking. But the far most important is what? Disk drive. That's we are using your system. So if Harry Truman worked in the storage network industry, so he would have said that that buck stops at the disk drive. And that's why I want to say that disk drive technology is that is impressive as the other technology that's in all IT and amazing capability and physics characteristics. Disk drive are constructed from the several highly specialized parts and sub-assemblies that you can say combined form designed to optimally perform a very narrowly defined function within the disk drive. What can be disk platter? Let's see here is the given in the slide. Like want to tell you about disk platter, read and write head, read and write channel, arm and actuators, drive spindle motors and servo controlled electronics, buffer memory and disk controller. That is these are the main part of the disk drive in which they help to read and write data on the disk drive. Now here you know that about disk platter, that is on the plates in which you are writing the data and that is written on the disk. So there are some platters and you read and write can be done on it easily. Now about arm and actuator, that is to movable as according to reading and writing the data. And it's the buffer memory and drive spindle motor and the servo control electronics are here. Now about if I say disk platter, what is disk platter? Let's see about here the physical media where data is stored in the disk drive is called a platter. Disk platter are rigid, thin circles, then spin under the power of drive spindle motor. What is the mean here? जो डिस्क प्लैटर में स्मॉल आपकी आप सर्कल टाइप उस पर होता है जो स्पिन मूव करता है ऑन द पावर ऑफ ड्राइव एंड जो प्लैटर होते हैं दैट आर बिल्ड ऑन 3 बेसिक लेयर दैट आर फर्स्ट इज substrate and which give the platter its rigid form. Means here it's moved in the substrate form and which is again on the platter form. The second is the magnetic layer होती है where data store and the third a protective overcoat is their layer. आप उसके ऊपर एक protective layer coat होती है which help to protect data and help minimize damage of the disk drive from the microscopically sized dust particles. Now here you will be able to see the 3 different layer with a disk platter. That is in the figure that shown here. Disk platter have the three. One is the mentioned here, proactive, that is proactive overcoat. This is the subtractive, and this is the magnetic that we told you about. This layer, basically substrates are the made from the variety of material that's you see here. This is the middle one. They are this, I hope you see the very light way here. Three layers are here. The over one is the proactive, middle are the subtractive, and the last one is the in the one here, the magnetative. And the what is substrate, that are made of various type of material, including you can say aluminium, magnesium alloy, glass material, all this kind. And consider that microscopic nature of the disc, recording in how close to head and are the surface. They must be amazingly flat and relatively inelastic to the thermal expansion and contraction. And obviously, in addition, they have to be almost completely uniform in the density and free from material defect that could be a result of the balance imperfection, basically. And about now we would like to discuss about the magnetic layer. This is the most disk drive. Disk platter में हमने ये पढ़ा. Sorry, about before that I would tell more about magnetic layer. In most disk drive today use the film technology. You know, the film technology using the magnetic drives, disk drive, and which is the very smooth and the only few millions in inch in the thickness. And film layer is made by spraying vapor of molecule on of the magnetic material of the surface. The proactive overcoat layer provide protection from microscopic elements such as dust and water vapor, as well as from the disk head crashes. You know, we need a protective layer over this because, as you know, to make protection from the dust particle which make the harm to the disk, crashes, a dust particle. So the best way to protect this drive platter is to operate them in clean, dust-free, temperature controlled environment. Next, about disk platter, we have studied, usually made up of arranging multiple platters on the top. That I told you about the platter. There are the multiple platters, and that is separated by the spacers to allow the disk arm and head to access both sides of platter. That's shown in the figure here. Disk platter and spinner, that is move over this disk platter. Next, about the read-write heads. About the read-write head used for transmitting data. As you know, on the cylindrical form there is a circular platter on which there is arm which move as per recording need to read data and write data on the which plate you are writing, but it move according to the plate, it filling data in the plates. So this is a head basic read and writer which move according on the platter. So read write that according head that used to transmitting data and from the platter, that is called read and write head. Read write head are responsible for recording and playing back data stored on the magnetic layer on the disk platter. That's, you know, sometimes you see cassettes and the CD which are recorded, you can play back as well. So that is move back as well as on the forward also. So how can it is move by this header of the read and write. When writing, they induce the magnetic signal to be imprinted on magnetic molecule in the media, and when reading, they detect the presence of those signal. The distance between the platter and the head is called flying height or head gap. So is measured and approximately 15 nanometers than mass today. About more next we will study buffer memory. Buffer memory, here the mechanical nature of reading and writing data on rotating platter. That is reading data on rotating data platter. But the limit that performance of the disk drive to approximately 3 order of magnitude, that is can be 1000 times less than the performance of data transfer to memory chip. For that reason, this drive have internal buffer and the memory to accelerate data transmission between the drive and the storage controller using it. Buffer memory size have increased over time, although not at the same rate as the areal density of platter. Today, disk drive typically have buffer capacity between 2 megabit to 16 megabit. That is, want ahead buffer memory might not have significant performance that impact on the disk drive. आप जो डाटा स्टोर कर रहे हो कितना efficiently उस पर से एक्सेस हो रहा है, उसकी परफॉर्मेंस इम्पैक्ट करती है on the disk drive. And the such desktop and laptop system, the buffer memory can make big difference. You have had already seen, as you know. I hope you have worked only on separately all this, so you know what is the main difference about the performance of here. And with multiple driver are accessible together in an array, so the controller such as the subsystem controller and overlap input output access multiple drive. That's using buffer memory transfer whenever is possible. So what is here to mean to say, जब हमारा डाटा हमारा एक्सेस होता है टुगेदर लार्ज अमाउंट में, तो हमारे ये सब स्टोरेज डिवाइसेस हमारे एक्सेस मल्टीपल एक्सेस में कनेक्ट होते हैं एंड यूजिंग बफर मेमोरी दे ट्रांसफर ओवर द वेरियस डिफरेंट पॉसिबल डाटा. The next is about the disk controller. Disk drive all have internal target controllers and that responds to command from host or subsystem initiators. In addition to interoperating with the external initiator. Here the storage controller in the disk drive is responsible for executing the command within the drive. And the software component of the disk drive that control is referred by the firmware and typically store an EEPROM chips for drive circuit board. What he want to say here, दैट्स डिस्क कंट्रोलर जो आपके पूरे डिस्क को कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं, डाटा कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं, एंड दे आर द सॉफ्टवेयर कंपोनेंट. बेसिक डिस्क ड्राइव कंट्रोलर रेफर ऑन द फर्मवेयर वे टोटली व्हाट दे स्टोर करते हैं. एंड डाटा स्ट्रक्चर क्या यूज़ करता है हमारा ड्राइव. लेट्स सी इन द स्लाइड. Sorry, there more be some data structure that can use on the disk drive, like track sector and the slender. Your disk in the format of the slender format on which circular plates are here. On the circular plate there are the track and sector. On every track there are the limited number of the sector on which data can be stored. Disk partition are here, logical block addressing here, and geometry of disk drive and so on bit recordings here. Now the track sector and the cylindrical about, I would like to tell that this part platter and formatted in the system concentric circle or ring that is called track. Within each track are sectors that which subdivided the circle into system of arcs, each formatted to hold the same amount of typically 512 bytes. That can be today the block size of file system can range considerably, but it is usually some multiple of 512 bytes. Cylinder are the system of identical track or multiple platters within the drive, and multiple arm drive move together in lockstep, positioning head in the same relative location of the platter simultaneously. Now, next is the disk partition that I told about track and sector. Now about disk partition also here on the disk. Now the disk partition. Disk partition divide what? Capacity of physical disk drive into logical container. जो आपका जहाँ फिजिकल डाटा स्टोर हो रहा है उसको हमारा वो ड्राइव करता है कुछ लॉजिकल कंटेनर्स के अकॉर्डिंग. एंड द दिस ड्राइव कैन हैव वन और मोर पार्टीशन, नॉट ओनली वन. Partition is divided here and they partition provide the way for user to flexibly create different virtual disks that can be used for different purpose. For instance, system could have different partition for reserve storage capacity for different user of the system or for different application. A common reason for using multiple partition is to store data for operating system or file system. Machines that are capable for running two different operating systems such as the Linux and Windows that could have their respective data on the different disk partition. अबाउट द मोड पार्टीशन दैट इज क्रिएटेड बाय कॉन्टिग्यूस एलोकेशंस में होते हैं हमारे जो ताकि हमारा डाटा जो है वो जो स्टोरेज है वो मेंटेन करके रखे स्पेस अदरवाइज वेस्टेज ऑफ स्टोरेज कैन मेक अगेन द प्रॉब्लम सो विजुअली यू कैन इमेजिन पार्टीशन that is looking like a concentric ring and can be target with the bull's eyes that's being replaced by the disk motor spindle. Partitions are established starting at the outer edge of the platters and working toward the center. For instance, if the disk has 3 partitions that are numbered from 0, 1 and 2 partition, and that would be on the outside and partition 2 would be closest to the center. That will move as 2 and that 2 will be the very closest to center when you move on over the partition. I hope this is very clear to about the disk partition. Next is discuss about the logical block addressing. What is logical block addressing? While internal system of cylinders, track and sector is interesting, so it is also not used much anymore by the system and subsystem that use disk drive. Cylinder, track and sector that address have been replaced by method is called logical block addressing, and which make this much easier to work by presenting a single flat address space. दैट्स अगर आपका डाटा इसमें लॉजिकल एड्रेसिंग में है तो इसकी वजह से आपका डाटा इजीली एक्सेस हो सकता है एंड फ्लैट एड्रेस स्पेस के अकॉर्डिंग वो इजीली आपको प्रेजेंट कर सकता है. अगर लास्ट डिग्री हमारी लॉजिकल ब्लॉक्स की हैं तो वो इजीली फैसिलिटेट करेगा आपको फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी डाटा स्टोरेज के लिए. नेटवर्क अलाउ करेगा बाय डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ डिस्क ड्राइव टू बी इंटीग्रेटेड मोर ईजली. And heterogeneous storage environment होता है that will be logical block addressing can be and disk drive control maintain be complete mapping of the allocation of all tracks. Next about here the geometry of disk drive and zone bit recording. Now we are discussing here one of the most interesting aspect of this, the radical geometry, that is amount of recording material that you using in a track. जैसे से ट्रैक्स इंक्रीज होते हैं इसका इंटरसेक्ट जो रेडियल है वो इंक्रीज होता है एंड यू मूव अवे फ्रॉम द सेंटर ऑफ दिस प्लेटर. जैसे जैसे इंक्रीज होते जा रहे हैं आपको सेंटर से मूव होते चले जाते हैं एंड दैट इज टू टेक एडवांटेज ऑफ दिस ज्योमेट्री बिकॉज दैट इज ड्राइव डिजाइनर डेवलप जोन बिट रिकॉर्डिंग विच प्लेस more sectors inside the track as radius increase. As the radius increase, the general idea of that segment that drive have into the sector and track. So density zone where track within the zone and all have same number of sector. That I already told you about various platter, sector and the track where we can store data in the circular format. So you can say there is no way to escape from radical geometry, the working with the drive. And one of the most interesting here, radical geometry, amount of radical material it's used, track increase, you will again move apart from the center. So this all was that is to be determined for radical length, and that means the outermost track can be hold more data than the इनसाइड ट्रैक. आप जैसे जैसे रेडिकल इंक्रीज होते हैं आप आउटर साइड पे मूव होते जाते हैं बट जो आउटर साइड है वो आपका ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा स्टोरेज अमाउंट कंटेन करता है एज कम्पेयर टू इनर साइड. द इनर साइड भी कंटेन द स्मॉलर सेक्टर एंड एज यू मूव आउटसाइड इट विल बी इंक्रीज्ड वन. एंड द नेक्स्ट इज अबाउट टेप ड्राइव. टेप ड्राइव आर यूज्ड यूनिवर्सली फॉर बैकअप. That's you are also maybe using it to restore the operation while there are the far fewer tape drive than the disk driver. Function they provide are very important. Like the primary difference is tape that the storage is the tape media is removable. That can be easily removable and apart that you can be removable. It's provide the various that disk drive have the function they provide very important can be storage media removable and the snacker net is the certainly not the only way tapes have that have been used for shared data. Company have used courier services, air cargo and even refrigerated trucks to move tapes from one side to another to share data. That's how much it's important to our sharing data. So media data that store tape, magnetic tape. So the result great deal with the chemical and material for manufacturing technology is magnetic tape, and it's very amazing and very durable. Let's see here. These are some result about if you wanna look about a tape that is media where data is to be stored. It's in a surprise that is magnetic tape, and result is a great deal of the chemical material and technology. Manitape is pretty and amazing and very durable, and it's longest and it is not abused. Manitape constructed the four basically. The one is the backing, binder, magnetic material, and the one coating. Backing of the tape is that is foundation material. Foundation material that gives the tape its inherent flexibility and the strength. In addition, backing provide a magnetic barrier so that signal from one section of the tape do not print throughout on the adjacent section on the tape. That tape are rolled up the tightly and stored for long period of time. Tape binder flexible glue like material that they are of backing as well as the magnetic material. So magnetic material are tape where you can action of the courses and where the data is to be written and the read. Magnetic properties are provided by final metal oxide, and which are the smooth for human eye but somewhat gassed and rough as the microscopic level. Next, about the tape, you will see some comparison from that tape drive typically incorporate compression technologies as switches to be boost data transfer rate. Compression is decompress in the small that is to be maintain the space that can increase performance. आप सिंपल आपने फाइल देखी है नेटवर्क में, आपकी फाइल अगर डाटा स्पेस ज़्यादा कंट्यून करता है तो आप वो अपलोड नहीं हो पा सकता नेटवर्क में. क्यों? वो वेस्टेज स्पेस की वजह से प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट हो जाती हैं. तो बेटर इट्स मच बेटर जो आपकी एक्स्ट्रा स्पेस है तो उसको रिमूव करने के लिए हम अपनी फाइल को कंप्रेस करते हैं. सिमिलरली ड्राइव दैट इनकॉर्पोरेट द कंप्रेशन टेक्नोलॉजी that boost data transfer rate is increased. So compression can increase performance of several times beyond the native and data transfer rate, but that depend on how much data can be compressed. Different type of data vary a great deal in this respect. Multimedia data might not compress at all, and database data might compress many times. Tape drive and storage network should be able to support native and streaming transfer rate for at least 10 Mbps. There's some role of two technologies are here in the tape. These two are here about tape drive that we are using here. Tape drive maybe a sufficient have the wide performance range that is based on the variable like a sufficient amount of data being transferred, the compressibility of data that is basically unlike this tape drive run at the different speed, and a drive streaming transfer rate represents the speed at which data is written from buffer onto tape, and obviously this implies that sufficient amount of data is being written into the drive buffer by a host of the system controller. The start-stop operation occur when there is insufficient data to maintain streaming mode operation. And the tape drive typically incorporate compression technology as a feature to boost data transfer rate. Compression can increase performance several times beyond the native and data transfer rate, but that depend on how much and how all this can be. That how much beyond the native and data transfer, but depend on how the data can be compressed. Different type of data vary great deal with the respect and multimedia data. Now we will study in the next session about these two technologies, linear tape and the technology and helical scan tape technology. The basic about I would like to hear the linear tape technology that will just data is sound by the placing lines of data that's learn lengthwise, and linear tape drive can multiple head, not a one, the multiple head operating parallelly, like reading, writing data simultaneously and very high transfer rate. These two technology, super digital linear tape SDLT and linear tape open LTO, will be technology later. This is the exercise that you will do it yourself. Explain the disk controller and what do you mean by the tape drive. This is all of today's session. We are winding up here. Thank you so much. Happy learning. We learn.